everybody online.
There's 2 people, I'm not sure. Please add.
Turn off all these. Microphone.
KO.
Doesn't matter, we have quorum.
Is Sophia on ready? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the February meeting of the TDC, the Topeka Development Corporation Board of Directors. We'll call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll call.
Absolutely. Okay, we have President Padilla,
Here.
Vice President Dobler,
Here.
Directors Hiller,
Here.
Ortiz, Valdivia Acala.
I'm here.
Oh, perfect. Valdivia Acala. Banks,
Here.
Kell,
Here.
Miller, Duncan,
Here.
and Hofer.
Here.
Okay, we have 8 present.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we'll go to item 4.
The first item is approval of the January 14, 2025 meeting minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Dobler and second by Councilman Banks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. There is a need this evening to go into executive session for the TDC. City Attorney, will you please?
The motion would be to recess into executive session not to exceed 10 minutes to discuss data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of one or more corporations as allowed under KSA 7543-19B4. The open meeting will resume in the City Council chambers. The following individuals will be necessary to assist the board in its deliberations: City Manager Perez and other individuals the TDC board finds useful.
Okay, here's the need to go into executive session. Here's a motion to go into session. Motion to go into session by Councilman Banks. I'll second it. Seconded by Councilwoman Hofer. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we will immediately recess into executive session. Okay, we have concluded our discussions in the executive session. No action has been taken. We'll now resume the agenda for this evening, and we'll move to item number 6, if the clerk will read.
6 is approval of an additional funding request in the amount of $71,449 for operations and maintenance of Hotel Topeka, contingent upon governing body approval of the transfer of the funds to the Topeka Development Corporation.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll ask Braxton Copley to stand for any questions on this.
Thank you, TDC members. This item is a operating funds request by GF for funding the ongoing operations. This request is in the amount of $71,449. Currently, there is approximately $150,000 in the operating fund. Basically, what the GF staff do is they look at our current operating fund balance, they look at what our projected expenses are, and they figure out how much money they need to be able to cover that, as well as to make sure that we have that $150,000 reserve. I will tell you that the amount of this request is based on taxes, which include BID, liquor, sales tax, and TGT, payroll, the installments for general liability, workers' comp, as well as a wide variety of guest supplies, utilities, etc. I would respectfully request approval of this item so that we can maintain the operations of Hotel Topeka. Gladly stand for any questions that you have.
Any questions for Braxton, Deputy Mayor?
With all the events that have been going on and shortly to come up, are we up on the booking side of things right now?
Compared to where we were in January, which was woeful, we literally had single-digit weeks in terms of occupancy. This upcoming weekend, I want to say we have approximately Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, I think we're at 45. Sunday, 60, and around 60 for Saturday. They were successful in booking an event for 2026. And so the last weekly report that I provided you, we were within like $10,000 of our projected operating budget. Prior to that, we were 30,000 below what projected revenues are. So, I mean, it's a constant battle in terms of them trying to book things, trying to put the best possible spin on what we have.
Thank you, Mr. Director.
Any other questions for Braxton? Director Dobler?
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Director Dobler,
Second.
second by Director Duncan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, well, I hear, excuse me, one no or two no's?
I think there was one on laundry.
So we got Councilman
Ortiz is a no.
Okay. All right. Good.
Director
all right.
Banks.
Banks is no.
Okay.
I think
And-
Dr. Diallo is
And,
no also.
okay, and Councilmember Valdivia. So I have 7 yes with 3 voting no. The no's are Ortiz, Valdivia, Acala, and Banks. The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. Move on to the next item on the agenda, number 7, Madam Clerk.
7 is discussion regarding the creation of a Community Improvement District, CID, and a Tax Increment Financing, TIF, district for Hotel Topeka.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I ask Braxton Copley, Assistant City Manager, lead us through this item.
So Amanda and I will tag team on this. Starting off, I had Josh put together the current numbers in terms of where we are. So if you look at, that was circulated by the clerk yesterday, the total costs, including the purchase price as well as 3-year of temp note interest, all of the expenses, including legal fees, consultants, operating, capital, we are at 11.3 million to date. That is all in, and again, that includes 3 years of temp note interest. We have had discussions just generally about the city going ahead and implementing a community investment district and imposing a 2-cent retail sales tax at Hotel Topeka to start recouping some of the money. Now, I did have RevPAR put together a financial model based on the property being completely rehabilitated and operating as a Hilton DoubleTree, and to the payback period on $9.8 million is year 17, payback on $11.6 million would be in year 19. And again, that is predicated on a complete rehabilitation as a DoubleTree. And just to give you an idea, in year 19, you're looking at $187,000 anticipated in the 2-cent CID and $676,000 based on the TGT increment. And that would be, we would freeze right now the current amount of TGT annually that Hotel Topeka is generating. Mind you, that is at a 30% occupancy. So we would freeze that amount, and then the city would capture any amount of additional transient guest tax. And so we're looking at, again, between the two of those, rehabbed, you're looking at a 19-year payback to repay the city for the $11.3 million that it has incurred to date. And as we know that there's still going to be additional operating expenses. And so this would be, we staff have put together a application and have submitted that to the committee. Just wanted you guys to be aware of that, and ultimately it's your decision on whether we move forward with that or not, and then whether we would take any action on the TGT. Again, absent the rehabilitation, we're not going to hit these projection numbers. So, and then I'll let Amanda
Sorry. Just as a point
Talking
of
about
clarification on process, as the TDC, you do need to make a motion to approve submitting the application to the city yourselves, and it's sitting in a different corporate body. So under our CDC, not CDC, we are not the health department, CID policy, you do need to approve submitting that application to the city so that we can move forward with vetting it and going through our process like we would normally do, as you are a different corporate entity. So that way, if you want to proceed down that route, we can. Braxton mentioned the TGT. That is strictly a governing body ordinance that you would go through and do if you wanted to do that. But the CID, you would need to approve moving forward, having us submit that to the city. And then also on the agenda, it talks about a TIF. There has been discussions back and forth about some of the various proposals might need a TIF. You could go ahead and have direct staff to get the process started to create a district. TIFs are two-step plans where the first is getting a district, making sure that you make all of the required statutory findings. That can take a while. So if you were looking to speed up down the road, potentially we could start the process also of creating a TIF district now in the absence of a project.
I have questions.
I had Director Dober and then Director Valdivia-Acula.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just so I understand, the SID and the TGT increment would go to the city. The TIF is being set up as a future enhancement. And explain, the TIF can it be used for vertical, can it be used for improvements inside the hotel or just outside of the footprint?
Generally, it's outside the footprint. It can't be used inside the hotel itself.
But it can be used for
Purchase
purchase
price.
price. Very good. Thank you.
Director Valdivia-Acula.
Thank you. Okay, so I have some really basic, kind of naive questions. When you're talking about the SID, in layman's language, so constituents, residents watching can understand it, can you please define what a SID is?
Yeah, a community improvement district is an area that the governing body sets up. So in this case, it would be around the hotel itself. And then purchases that take place in that hotel itself, the point of sale, would have an extra 2% sales tax on top of it that then would go back to reimburse the city for the expenses that it has already attributed. So your point of sales would be, your food, your beverages, your room rentals, the things that sales tax apply to when you purchase them inside a hotel.
And so with the SID, that would be anybody from Topeka that would come in to stay at the hotel or do anything within the hotel where they're spending money. Anybody from across the city that comes into the hotel that's spending money. That 2% up mark, is that would be in some small signage there so that they would understand that, is that correct?
So next week at the governing body meeting, you do have an updated CID policy before you that would consider adding a requirement that there be signage in any CID district.
Okay, and then the additional question is, with the CID, no matter if the hotel gets sold or not, that CID stays into existence to reimburse the city, is that correct?
That is the proposal that staff is proposing, yes.
Okay, and then with the TGT, which is not on here as far as the discussion, that's the heads on beds. Can you explain that just a moment for folks?
Yeah, transient guest tax is a tax that the state legislature allows cities to assess for particular purposes. It's transient guest is the idea that it's a tax that you're putting on heads on beds is a great description of it. It's people that come into your community from outside and you're assessing a tax to help with tourism or event space or whatever you would like it to be. The city has a charter ordinance that provides specific purposes. If you wanted to go the TGT route as a governing body, it would take a charter ordinance amendment, lots of policy and open discussions for the public to come in, but you could assess a particular new amount of a TGT, and that would be on room rentals basically in the hotel.
And then how much of that would go to the city to help reimburse the taxpayer dollars that were spent?
All of that is dependent on what the governing body decides to do, but staff proposal is that it would be recaptured completely by the city to reimburse the taxpayers about what they've already spent.
Even if the hotel is sold?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then the TIF, can you please explain that?
TIF districts are tax increment financing districts under state law. They allow you to set a base year of what your property is appraised at and then capture the incremental growth due to redevelopment or improvement in properties to reimburse as an economic development incentive to get a property purchased and infrastructure around it, as Councilman Dobler said. You can use that for up to 20 years under the statute. So the city continues to collect the property tax that's collected now at the base rate, and then the incentive is that developer, whoever gets that ultimate project, is incentivized to improve the property so that the tax value goes up, so that that higher property taxes can be recouped to help pay them for the investment in the property.
So then that, just in simple terms, for my simple brain and constituents, is that that money that is collected through the property tax, it goes back to the entity that is developing, the developer, is that correct? To help them continue to develop it on for 10, 20, 15 years, however
It's
much?
correct. However much the governing body negotiates with the governing body does not have to negotiate the entire increment. You can, but you cannot negotiate below what the base year is now. So this is what would set your base year, whatever property taxes you're getting on it now, come back to the city, and then the increment can be negotiated by the governing body back to the developer or whoever as an incentive to help get the property redeveloped.
Okay, so just to be clear though, some percentage of that property tax, right, because this is just trying to get it down, would ultimately end up going back to the developer?
Yes.
Whatever portion the governing body decides?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Director Duncan.
So both of TIFs and CIDs have a time frame, right? So once you start that clock, it starts. So are we better off, if we want to move forward, setting up the paperwork and having it ready contingent upon actual sale of the property? Or, I mean, because I don't see the benefit, especially based on the numbers you just gave, of eating up 6 or 8 months for the rest of this year if we got it, and then having it, losing that time.
On the establishing the TIF district, the most advantageous way to do that would be to get close to a deal and set your increment before a sale, because your sale can reassess your property value at a higher value. So if you want the largest increment, you want it when your property is valued the lowest. As to the CID, the more sales you get, the more you're going to get on CID. So it's a catch-22 for the governing body on which way you want to go.
Okay, yeah, I'm good with either way. I just want to take that into account as we craft it. Thank you.
Further questions? Director Hofer.
Okay, first one I was thinking about was the food that is consumed in Manor. Is that considered hotel?
So we would currently, under our operating agreement, we have it very clear that point of sale has to be considered the hotel so that it's not Manor. We would want to negotiate into any sale price in the future that same kind of provision. Otherwise, you would want to try to draw your CID district around Manor. I think all your sales are actually occurring out of the hotel, which should be the point of purchase. They're not actually occurring at Manor.
Okay, I just want to make sure on that. Next, I wanted to know about the room rates. As we go, room rates should be going up as it's fixed up. So are we going to capture more from that at that point?
TGT is a percentage and sales tax would be a percentage. So if your room rates are higher, you're going to capture more when it's redeveloped, yes.
Will that also be, a portion of that would be going back to whoever bought it?
The way it would, staff has proposed it would be set up, the CID and the TGT would come back to the city in its entirety. So you would be repaying yourself at a faster rate. It would not go back to the developer. Now, the increased room rates themselves, those profits would be going to whoever developed it.
And then the other question I had, where do we stand on the work that's been completed in the hotel? I assume that where we had to cut into the ceiling and replace
The actuators?
the actuators, that's the word.
That is, Actuator work has been completed.
The chiller's done.
The chiller has been completely reconstructed. The service elevator, last month that I asked you about, that is back. We put a new drive in it, and that is functioning.
Okay.
So basically,
All we have are the ADA sidewalks and dock.
and that's later on the agenda with the ADA sidewalks. There is one of the passenger elevators. The drive is bad on that, but the good thing is the Kone tech was in the hotel doing the installation of the drive in our service elevator, and took a look at it and said that's going to be covered under warranty. So we're just going to schedule that work to do the drive repair on the passenger elevator will be covered under the Kone warranty.
Okay. That's all I have, Mayor.
Director Haley?
Thank you. Just to clarify then, if it's a SID, that's an extra 2% sales tax, so that would, 100% of it with the proposal as it's going would come to the city, and nothing would be lost in terms of our other sales tax or other, it wouldn't be coming out of any other sales tax revenue.
That is what we propose. The governing body, ultimately, you can decide whatever percentage you want, but the state law caps the EID at 2%.
There's a real sensitivity these days about us cutting into taxes that are already committed to something else. So I just wanted to clarify that the SID idea would be an extra tax and 100% to us, no hit on the sales tax that was there. I think when you first introduced the TGT, you were proposing to do it in a way like we do the TIF, whereas the hotel would keep paying at the level that it is, but once it grows, we would get the difference.
Correct.
Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. Our proposal would be to allow the current amount of TGT that's coming in, because most of our TGT flows through to other entities. It would be
Correct.
to allow them to get that same amount that they're currently getting, but would be to capture the increment based on rehabilitation of the property.
So once again, this would not cut into any obligations or expectations of that money right now. It would be a choice on our part that our transient guest tax money would be used to help invest in bringing people to town.
Correct.
In that way. Okay. The TIF, however, would be, would take away tax revenue on the increased value.
Above the current increment,
Yes.
correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
So I want to make this abundantly clear, because as what we've been hearing lately from the citizens about taxes, this is only pretty much a pay-to-play tax. If you stay at the hotel or buy something from the hotel, is the only way you get any taxation on this, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Further discussion? Now, for this matter, Braxton, at this point, is this item up for discussion only?
I do believe we need some legal action if you would like us to apply it to the city. I know that sounds weird, but you're a different corporate entity right now. So having a motion to have us go ahead and proceed with the process of applying for a CID would be helpful.
Okay. Director Hiller?
Question, isn't there usually a fee to the city to apply for such an arrangement?
We'll take a look at that. I'm going to hazard a guess that the city manager could potentially waive that.
Understood, just checking if they can.
Move to approve take the next steps.
Okay, motion to approve by Deputy Mayor.
Real quick.
Director Mayor. Did I hear something?
Sorry. Thank you for the conversation. I'm thankful for Karen for saying what she did. I don't feel comfortable waiving a fee we wouldn't waive to somebody else in the same situation.
Okay, Director Miller, I want to make sure that I take your comments in context. Are you speaking in support of the motion to approve, or just as a comment on our discussion?
Yeah, I would approve the motion,
Okay.
but with the caveat that we don't waive any fees that we would normally do for the same exact situation, if that makes sense.
I would just,
from another entity.
I would just say in this case, you would need to transfer money from the city to pay to the TDC and then transfer the money right back because the money comes right back to the city. So in this instance, it's probably unique. But we can make that motion if you would like to.
Okay.
Motion's on the table.
We have a motion on the table. I need a second by Director Dobler. Okay. Can we still do acclamation, or do you need a roll call?
I would just do a roll call, though.
Okay.
Okay, President Padilla,
Yes.
Vice President Dobler,
Yes.
Directors Hiller. Yes. Valdivia Aquila,
No.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Banks,
No.
Kell,
Yes.
and Miller,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
and Hofer.
Yes.
Okay, we have 8 yes with Directors Valdivia Aquila and Banks voting no. The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 8. Madam Clerk.
8 is consideration of engaging an engineering consultant to prepare documents necessary to claim a refund of retail sales tax on the water, gas, and electric utilities used for the guest rooms.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll ask Braxton Copley, our Assistant City Manager, to lead us through this item.
Thank you. So GF Hotels has approached us. They're a consultant that they have used extensively in other states, has come to them with a business proposal, and that is that they put together a application to refund the point of purchase retail sales tax on electric, gas, and water that are currently being charged to the rooms. Their estimate in terms of the total amount of refund would be approximately $50,000. Their proposal, the consultant's proposal, initially was that we would pay all of their engineering fees, we would pay all of their travel expenses. Their engineering fees are estimated to be $5,000, travel expenses $750, that we would pay all that up front, and then they would get a small amount of cost share in the 5%, 10% range. We went back to them and said, we feel more comfortable if you guys would agree to share some of the risk with us, and that we would be willing to pay a little bit towards your engineering fees. And so their revised proposal was a cost share of 20/80, or I should say a share of revenue of 20% and 80%, as well as we would make a payment of $3,000 up front towards their engineering fees. So at the end of the day, the proposed refund that the city would expect to get would be approximately $40,000. The consultant would get approximately $10,000, plus we would pay $3,000 of their engineering and travel fees up front. And then it's also estimated that annually, this would save the hotel approximately $15,000 a year. So I will tell you that this consultant has not done any work in Kansas, but has done work for GF in other states, and that according to our contact there, they are legitimate, and that typically they deliver what they say. So we wanted to put this in front of you and ask for your guidance. My recommendation would be that we pursue this. It's a small investment of $3,000 and an opportunity to recoup potentially up to $40,000 of point-of-purchase retail sales tax that has been paid for charges on guest rooms over the course of the last 3 years. Not to mention, it sets up whoever the future owner is in terms of, potential savings of $15,000 a year in future, because the state law does allow for an exemption of tax for gas, electric, and water provided to guest rooms in hotel.
Director Dover.
So this is not a special exemption just because it's run by a governmental entity at this time. This is open to
Correct.
anybody running a hotel.
Correct. When I was in utilities, we would get those annual requests from the Ramada.
Very good. Thank you.
Director Hiller.
I'm just puzzled as to why the people at the front desk couldn't run the numbers on their accounts and send in requests. Why an engineer would be needed to just check the books and write a letter.
Okay. It's my understanding that it does require the engineering to put the study together because you have a single meter of electricity, a single meter of gas, and a single meter of water. And what you have to do is actually get into those systems to figure out what portion of that electrical energy is going to guest rooms versus the kitchen versus the common areas. Same thing on water. You don't have a water meter on every one of the rooms, as well as the other, as well as the kitchen and, the common bathrooms. So that's where the engineering comes in terms of looking at your systems and coming up with a defensible rubric in terms of what portion of that electricity that comes through that meter into the hotel is going to power the chiller versus powering and what part of the air is going from the chiller to the common areas. Same thing on the water. What's going into the kitchen, what's being used in the bathrooms.
Thank you.
Director Duncan.
I think so what happens if they can't do this? We just are out $3,000.
We're out $3,000, which is why we said we want you to have some skin in the game. We'll agree to some small amount of the engineering fee, but then we want to go with the savings, right? And that's when they came back to, okay, well, you pay us $3,000 instead of everything that we're doing, and we'll share with you $2,880.
So we think all the other hotels in town are doing this for the most part, as far as we know? I mean, I guess my question is, if they aren't because it didn't work, is that the reason they aren't, or are they just not wanted to spend the money to do it? Because it seems to me like some of them are pretty big and would want to do this and be getting this annual savings. So I'm a little concerned that if none of them are getting it, there's a reason. Like they tried, they went through the process, they used someone local, and they've been denied. That's my only concern is that. So, thank you.
Braxton, you did say, I'm sorry, Mr.
Certainly, go ahead.
You did say that these requests came regularly from the Ramada.
Right. When I was in utilities, we would get the request for the refund at the Ramada. So I know that they were aware of the exemption under state law, and that was for the water portion of it.
Okay. Anything further, any more discussion that you'd like to have on this? So is that a recommendation from you, Braxton?
I would respectfully ask that the motion be made to go ahead and approve us to engage the consultant to do this activity. And we as a city will not, we will, with your approval, we will tell GF to go ahead and engage, and they will make the $3,000 payment out of operations. And then when those funds come in, they will go directly to Hotel Topeka.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Vice President Dover. Your second? I'll second the motion. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Okay, President Padilla,
Yes.
Vice President Dobler,
Yes.
Directors Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Acla,
No.
Ortiz,
No.
Banks,
No.
Kell,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Duncan,
No.
and Hofer.
Yes.
Okay, we have 6 yes with Directors Valdivia, Acala, Ortiz, Banks, and Duncan voting no. The motion carries.
Thank you. Move on to the last item on their agenda, agenda number 9. Madam Clerk.
9 is discussion regarding the capital funds request for the ADA sidewalk and other site improvements at Hotel Topeka.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask Braxton Copley, Assistant City Manager, to lead us through this item.
Okay, thank you. You've seen this item before at the January TDC meeting. We brought this up. At that time, I was directed to get with our engineering consultant to come up with the cost estimate for what portion of the project was for the ADA compliant sidewalk, and to make a request to the county for 1/2 of that amount. The amount of the estimated construction cost for the ADA compliant sidewalk from Topeka Boulevard to the hotel is $78,000. I reached out to the county councilor and made the request for the county to pay 1/2 of that, or $39,000. We heard from the county today that they are not interested in participating in that cost. So a couple ways to move forward. Either the TDC could go ahead and authorize the full amount, which is basically, the original amount was $125,662, which means that we needed approximately $140,000 additional amount, which is identified in the resolution 142-338. The other option would be to remove the ADA compliant sidewalk, or the $78,000 out of that project cost, and that would mean an approval of approximately $198,000 total project cost, or the delta of approximately $70,000 to move forward, and then allow a future owner to construct at a later date the ADA compliant sidewalk. So this would allow us to address the issues with the uneven sidewalk panels that are a trip hazard, as well as the areas that are damaged on the loading dock, to be able to make those critical repairs and basically leave for another day the ADA sidewalk component. So really for discussion, we do not have a resolution on the council meeting tonight, because I needed to get some guidance from you all in terms of which way do you want to go. The other option, of course, would be just to defer for another month or two this particular item and see how things go with the hotel generally.
Director Hofer?
Since we're going to be working on Topeka Boulevard, is any of this being replaced along Topeka Boulevard that would be included in it?
No, ma'am. This
Well,
is,
I'm even thinking of a curb cut.
yes, potentially the project 15th to 21st, yeah, would be a curb cut, but we typically would not put a curb cut in to nowhere. So, I mean, I don't know that I need a curb cut.
Well, I'm thinking going north-south.
Because really, we're talking about to get from a bus stop to the property. So we're talking about from the existing sidewalk to get to the property, which is not going to be part of the project. In fact, we had to obtain from the county the easements for the sidewalk going across county property to get to the hotel.
Okay, I just didn't know what the extent of the sidewalk work was going to be for Topeka Boulevard.
Very little. We are going to be adding, there's some missing shared use path, 8-foot wide shared use path, and so there's a missing section of 8-foot wide shared use path that we're doing. Other than that, we're relying on the
Current?
on the current sidewalks and current streetlights.
Okay, thank you.
I'll remind the board that we've got about 8 minutes for this meeting, so Director Duncan and then Deputy Mayor.
I move to defer until the next TDC board meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. A motion to defer and a second. If you call the roll, please.
President Padilla,
Yes.
Vice President Dobler,
Yes.
Directors Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Akala,
This is for deferment?
Yes.
Correct. Ortiz,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
and Hofer.
Yes,
All right, we have 10 yes, the motion carries.
Okay. Motion carried. Okay. Just checking, is there any other business to come before the board at this time? Seeing none, thank you for all the information you provided for us, Braxton, appreciate it. This meeting is adjourned.